What happens when a war movie goes too far for its own era, when filmmakers decide to show history in a way that people are not ready to face? The 1970s delivered some of the boldest and most confronting films ever made. Some were pulled from screens, others were cut to pieces, and a few sparked storms that lasted for years. Stay close, because one of the entries on this list pushed things so far that entire countries stepped in to shut it down. Number 10, Salo, or The 120 Days of Sodom, 1975. It is hard to imagine a film causing more uproar than this one. From the moment it screened, Salo became the kind of title people whispered about rather than announced. It is set during the last days of a collapsing regime in the 1940s, but it was made in the 1970s to hold up a mirror to modern power. Director Pier Paolo Pasolini created harsh scenes on purpose. He wanted viewers to feel the cruelty that people with authority can impose when no one stops them. Most countries were not prepared for that type of honesty. The United Kingdom restricted it immediately, Australia blocked it, and several European nations refused to screen it unless entire portions were removed. Some critics called it a warning, others called it chaos. Either way, the conversation kept growing. What made the controversy stronger was the timing. The world was still dealing with the aftershocks of global conflict, and this film reminded people of the darkest side of control and corruption. Pasolini insisted that he was not trying to shock for attention. He wanted viewers to think about the cost of blind obedience. Whether people admired the artistic message or strongly rejected it, everyone agreed on one point. Salo was not just a film. It was a test to see how far truth can go before society pushes back. Number 9, The Deer Hunter, 1978. When The Deer Hunter arrived, audiences thought they were getting a story about friendship, small towns, and the long shadow of conflict. They got that, but they also got something far heavier. Michael Cimino crafted the film to show how a group of friends change when they leave home with hope and return with silence. Viewers were not used to war movies built around quiet sadness instead of loud action. The most debated scenes were the ones showing how captivity breaks the human spirit. Some called those moments powerful and unforgettable. Others said they felt too real for a movie theater. Several international groups accused the film of being unfair to certain communities, and protests grew outside some screenings. In the Soviet bloc, officials decided it was too political and blocked it entirely. Yet the film's emotional weight is exactly what made it last. Robert De Niro and Christopher Walken delivered performances that felt painfully human. The movie is not interested in showing battles. It cares about loyalty, regret, and the way memories follow people home long after the danger has passed. Cimino did not step back from the criticism. He said he had a right to show the cost of conflict from one group's point of view. The Deer Hunter became one of the most argued about films of the decade. It proved that a story does not need loud scenes to cause a storm. Sometimes the quietest moments carry the sharpest truth. Number 8, The Tin Drum, 1979. The tin drum looked harmless at first glance. A young boy named Oscar refuses to grow as the world around him slips into a rising conflict. But the light tone ends quickly. The film blends dark humor with the slow collapse of society during the 1930s and 40s. Director Volker Schlöndorff built the story as an allegory. Oscar becomes a symbol for people who choose silence rather than responsibility. When the film was released, people were stunned by how boldly it portrayed the pressures of living under a growing regime. Some countries praised it as a masterpiece. Others reacted with force. Parts of the United States removed it from shelves. Germany debated whether it crossed moral lines. Certain cities banned it entirely for years. The controversy came from its willingness to show how adults failed during a dangerous era, while a child understood everything but pretended not to grow up. Critics argued for months about whether the film was brave for its message or reckless for its imagery. Despite the chaos, it won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. The Tin Drum's legacy is unusual. It was celebrated, condemned, pulled, restored, banned, and finally embraced again. It stands as proof that a strange, imaginative story can sometimes speak louder about history than a straightforward war drama ever could. Number 7, Salon Kitty, 1976. Salon Kitty is one of the strangest war-era films to ever gain international attention. Set in the 1930s, it follows a group inside a high-ranking political circle using surveillance and manipulation to control rising opposition. Director Tinto Brass created a movie filled with tension, coded messages, and a setting designed to expose how far powerful figures will go when they fear losing their influence. When it premiered, censors in multiple countries immediately stepped in. They believed it criticized authority too directly and pushed boundaries too freely. Several nations demanded heavy cuts. Others banned it completely, fearing it would spark political anger. Even in places where it screened, audiences split into two groups. Some thought it was a daring look into how political systems use personal lives to maintain dominance. Others thought it was irresponsible, too extreme, too willing to dramatize sensitive history. The film's true controversy came from how openly it challenged the myth of clean and controlled leadership. It pulled viewers into a world where political figures hide behind charm and uniforms, while secretly shaping society through fear and manipulation. Brass insisted that his goal was to show the danger of leaders who pretend to be noble while acting without restraint. Salon Kitty's impact still lingers. It sits in that rare category of films that were both banned and deeply analyzed, proving that challenging authority always comes with consequences. Number 6. Ilse, She-Wolf of the SS 1975. Few films from the 1970s triggered more debate than this one. Ilse, She-Wolf of the SS was made in Canada, but set during the final years of a collapsing regime in Europe. Instead of presenting a standard war narrative, it built a grim tale around the dangers of unchecked command. The filmmakers wanted to show how far cruelty can spread when those with power are never questioned. The moment it reached theaters, arguments erupted. Some countries said the imagery was far too intense and refused distribution. Australia blocked it completely, and several European nations followed. Critics were divided. A few called it a harsh reminder of what happens when history is sanitized. Many others insisted the film went beyond what audiences should have to watch. Despite the backlash, the movie gained a following because people had never seen anything like it. It did not follow traditional storytelling patterns. Instead, it threw viewers into the harsh environment of a totalitarian facility during wartime collapse. The controversy grew so large that even decades later, the film remains restricted in some regions. The legacy of Ilse is not about approval. It is about the debate it started. How far can filmmakers go when portraying cruelty from the past? How much honesty is too much? It is one of the clearest examples of a film that was banned, not because it lied, but because it showed truths people wished would disappear. Number 5. The Battle of Algiers, 1970s. The Battle of Algiers was first released in the mid-1960s, but when it returned to screens across Europe and the Middle East in the 1970s, it caused more uproar than ever before. The film is shot like a news report, following the struggle between French forces and local fighters in Algiers. Director Gillo Pontecorvo created it to feel real on purpose. No flashy scenes, no overly dramatic lines, just the tense rhythm of a city caught in a tug of control. When the re-release rolled out, the reaction was immediate. France had already blocked the film for years, claiming it stirred old wounds. Several countries in the 1970s repeated the ban, arguing that it encouraged rebellion. Even places that allowed it faced loud debates. Politicians said it was too bold, too direct, too willing to show the ugly side of occupation. Viewers argued about who the movie supported, even though Pontecorvo insisted he wanted to show the conflict without picking a hero. The reason the controversy returned stronger was simple. The 1970s were a time of political tension across many regions, and this film reminded people how quickly public unrest can spread. Its style is almost documentary-like, and that made the message hit harder. The Battle of Algiers became the rare film that sparked arguments in two different decades. Some saw it as history, others saw it as a warning. Either way, nobody ignored it. Number 4. A Bridge Too Far, 1977. A Bridge Too Far arrived in theaters with a massive cast and an even bigger ambition. It told the story of Operation Market Garden, the mission where Allied forces tried to push into the Netherlands during the later years of the conflict. Director Richard Attenborough wanted to show how even carefully planned missions can collapse under pressure. Instead of creating a simple victory story, he filled the film with setbacks, miscommunication, and the heavy cost of human error. Most Western audiences admired the honesty, but in the Soviet bloc, the reaction was very different. Officials believed the movie made certain nations look too weak and others too strategic. They disliked the idea that Western filmmakers could frame events in a way that clashed with their own historical narrative. The film was quietly blocked across several Eastern European territories, even though it did not contain anything graphic. The controversy grew because A Bridge Too Far broke the rules of traditional war movies. It refused to paint any side as perfect. It highlighted the limits of planning and the danger of overconfidence. Some countries did not want the message spreading, especially during a decade shaped by political tension. The film eventually became respected for its scale and accuracy, but its temporary bans showed something important. Sometimes a movie does not need bold scenes to cause trouble. It only needs to challenge the version of history that people in power prefer to keep polished. Number 3. In the Realm of the Senses, 1976. In the Realm of the Senses was one of the most argued about films of the entire decade. While not a battlefield story, it is set during the tense pre-war years of 1930s Japan, and its themes of obsession, control, and rising political pressure made it impossible to ignore. Director Nagisa Oshima blurred the line between personal drama and national tension. He wanted to show how private choices can echo the political climate surrounding them. When the film was completed, Japanese authorities refused to allow the full version to be processed in the country. It had to be finished in France. In the United States and the United Kingdom, theaters released highly edited cuts. Many countries decided the film pushed boundaries far beyond anything they were willing to screen. It became one of the most censored releases of the era. The political subtext also played a major role in the backlash. Oshima's message was clear. When society tightens control, personal freedom shrinks. That alone made officials uncomfortable. Even without the intense scenes, the underlying theme of resisting authority carried a weight that audiences noticed. Over time, film scholars praised In the Realm of the Senses for its courage and its unfiltered look at human pressure within a strict society. But the bans and cuts remain part of its history, proving that a film can be controversial even when it never sets foot on a battlefield. Number 2. Cross of Iron, 1977. Sam Peckinpah was never known for quiet stories, and Cross of Iron may be his boldest work of the 1970s. Set on the Eastern Front, the film follows a group of German soldiers facing exhaustion, mistrust, and pressure from both sides. Instead of presenting a neat narrative, Peckinpah focused on the chaos and confusion of a collapsing command system. The film shows how pride and ego can be just as dangerous as any enemy. When Cross of Iron was released, audiences were surprised. This was one of the first major Western films to focus entirely on German soldiers in a way that felt personal rather than distant. Some critics called it refreshing. Others thought it was uncomfortable. Eastern European officials reacted strongly. The movie was blocked or heavily restricted in several areas due to its portrayal of internal conflict within German ranks. They believed the story blurred the lines between victim, survivor, and wrongdoer. The film's gritty style also caused debate. Peckinpah used rough editing, intense close-ups, and a tone that felt almost documentary-like. It challenged the polished look of most war films from past decades. Viewers felt the stress and desperation on screen, and not everyone liked that. Cross of Iron grew in reputation over the years. At the time, though, it caused enough tension for some regions to limit or ban it. It remains a reminder that honesty, especially in stories about conflict, rarely comes without backlash. New number 1, The Battle of Chile, 1975. The Battle of Chile is one of the most powerful documentary projects ever filmed during a period of rising national tension. Directed by Patricio Guzman, it followed the final years of political struggle in Chile, capturing street marches, clashes, and the collapse of a fragile system. Guzman and his crew filmed everything with small, handheld cameras, often standing only a few steps away from danger. The footage feels alive, direct, and completely unfiltered. When the trilogy was completed, the reaction inside Chile was immediate and severe. The ruling authorities banned it completely, arguing that it exposed too much and showed the inner fractures of the country during a time of distress. Any copy found inside the nation was seized. Guzman himself had to leave the country, taking the film reels with him so the project would not disappear. Outside Chile, the documentary gained global attention. Critics praised its bravery and its ability to capture history as it happened. Viewers were stunned by how close the camera moved to the people involved, from ordinary citizens to those trying to hold the government together. It did not pick heroes or villains. It showed how fragile society becomes when trust breaks. The trilogy remained banned in Chile for many years, partly because the images were too honest, and partly because leaders feared the memories it might revive. The Battle of Chile earned its place at the top of this list for one clear reason. Sometimes telling the truth is the most controversial act of all. War movies are supposed to show history, but these films did something much bolder. They showed the parts people wanted to skip, the corners of the past that still make officials nervous. And every time one of them was banned, it only proved how powerful stories can be when they refuse to play safe. If you enjoyed this list, share your thoughts below. And remember this, the moment a film is silenced, that is when you should pay the most attention.